I truly think I am now able and qualified to give a true users and owners, because I purchased this bike with my own money. It's not a loaner bike, it's not a dealer bike, this is my bike. But before we dive into any of it, can we just pan around and take a look at this beautiful 2023 Triumph Tiger 900 Rally Pro? My gosh, this motorcycle is gorgeous. Now, why I state I truly believe I can finally give this motorcycle a true users and owners review. Again, this isn't a loaner, this isn't a media, this isn't a dealer's bike. This is my motorcycle that I spent my hard-earned cash on right here. And why I think I can truly give it a good solid review now, so I got 2,300 miles roughly, 2,200, something like that. 16 hours on the highway, conquered the Smoky Mountain 500 on this bad boy, water crossings included. Got some pros, got some cons, and again, I can truly talk about it as a user. And where I want to start with this, just like I start with all of my other reviews, as many of you know if you've been around my channel before, I'm gonna praise this bike, I'm gonna trash this bike, I'm gonna talk about it as far as my user's experience, my riding style, and that's what I want you to take out. Again, if you watch tire reviews or motorcycle videos, someone may love it, someone may hate it, so on and so forth, but again, they're going off their riding style. So here we're talking about my riding style, and I want you to take that into account. If you watched any of my previous videos, you know, again, I love off-roading. I want to be 50-50, I'd say I'm more 70-30, but I am an adventurous off-roader. Like if I'm going down, I do like taking that random right turn right there. And again, I do ride a lot of road, but I'm not aggressive. I'm not trying to wheelie, I'm not a speed demon or anything like that. I like exploring and I like adventures and I love sightseeing. I just love riding. But where I want to start with this bike, talking about all of that, is riding it. The comfort, the ergonomics. Again, I talked about 16 hours on the highway, talked about Smoky Mountain 500. So again, I got a lot of time, a lot of seat time on this bike. And talking about the seat, starting right there, this is hands down the most stock comfortable seat I have ever sat on. Is it perfect? No, I wish it was a pinch wider because I'm so used to seat concept seats and they are a little bit wider. But again, that's me nitpicking. This seat is incredibly comfy, and the reason being is because it rounds off on the edges. It doesn't just go sharp and bam, just drop right off. So again, it kind of rolls with your bum right there, you know what I mean? So you're not getting those excessive pressure points one way or another. Now, the seat is also heated, the front and the back one, which yes, I even know I live down in the south and it's pretty hot. Cranking that heated seat on first thing in the morning was nice. It was really, even though you're just using it for a minimum amount of time, again, with it being a hot area down here, it was really nice to have that. Now, other than the seat, talking about the seating position, when you sit on this bike here, let me put the kickstand down so I can actually put my feet up. When you sit on this bike, the legs are in a very natural position for me, right? They're forward up here a little bit, and you got that slight slant down. It's not something aggressive. I'm not back here. I'm not up like this. It's kind of right here. And the nice thing about that is it's kind of putting your position into the bike. Hopefully that makes sense. The bars, they're not high, but they're not low. You do have a pinch lean forward, an absolute pinch. And I'm kind of stuck in my mind. I'm like, do I want bar risers or do I not? Because it's so good right now, but it's not perfect. And I think if I put bar risers, it might stretch it out too much and I'll be like this. You know what I mean? So right now I get that slight lean forward, and that slight pinch of lean forward plays into that leg position as well. So again, I'm right here into the bike and just putting my weight right there, which also plays into that balance, especially when you're off-road. Talking off-road, of course, a lot of us are gonna be standing a lot of times, especially myself, and on a big bike, standing up is so much easier when that back end starts washing around. Standing up on this right here, the bars, I'm right at 6 feet, by the way, 180 pounds. I do have a slight lean forward as well on the bars right here. As you can see, my position, you look at my back, it's just slightly leaned forward. It's not aggressive like on the KTM. I was kind of down like this. But on this one, I got that slight lean forward right there, and it puts my weight up there. Which, no, yeah, I kind of like being like this, you know what I mean? But this is probably the way you want to be when you're off-road, because it's going to put that weight right there. It's going to lock that bike down, and you're going to be nice and balanced. So as far as the core ergonomics here, as I almost knocked the bike over, which we're going to talk about that weight here in a second. Highway, off-road, standing, it is very, very good. Now, while we're on the topic of comfort, I think what also is going to go into play with that is wind blockage. That's a big thing for me, especially being on a highway. Again, 16 hours on a highway, driving from all the way down south up to Georgia, North Carolina, Tennessee, stuff like that. The wind blockage on this bike is pretty good. You all know I was on the KTM, you got the gas tank down there, blocked all that wind on my feet. The Africa Twin, the gas tank's massive, blocks all that wind right there. You got this tank up here, which isn't small by any means, but it's not big. So it's blocking a lot of that wind right there. You still get a lot of wind on your feet because there's really no blockage down there. But more importantly, this windshield I want to talk about. This windshield is very nice. It does what you need. If you're riding roughly 2 hours, maybe even a little bit of interstate, but mainly around town, 65 miles an hour, I would say. It's a great window and it does what it needs. But I wish it was wider. I really wish it was wider out here, probably about 2 inches on each side, I would say. That might be stretching it, maybe an inch on each side minimum. You know, as far as the height, it's perfectly fine. I don't get any crazy buffeting, but as far as how it swoops in right there, the wind beats up my shoulders big time. And when I'm riding in this position right here, there's no blockage coming here. So it takes your jacket and it's just beating up your jacket. Or if you're wearing rain gear, it's even worse and you feel it beating up your shoulders. So I do have the Give windshield on order for this bike. So while we're talking about comfort, riding it, handling it, we got to talk about handling it when we drop it. You're buying this bike to go off-road, you're going to drop it. Is it a heavy motorcycle? Yes. Is it excessively heavy? No. It's still easy to manage. I dropped it on the Smoky 500 as well. And again, you're gassed off-road. You can't look at like, we're not going to be picking your bike up like this. This is not how you're going to be picking up your motorcycle. I got flat ground. I'm freshly showered. I got a little bit of a breeze. No, you're going to be huffing and puffing. You're going to be gassed. You're going to be exhausted off-road. And then you're going to be picking it up. And there's no denying it, even though this being in the middle ground of, again, me being KTM and Africa Twin, it's still a heavy motorcycle. But it's not ridiculous to lift up here. It just feels very nicely balanced. Again, not lightweight, not excessively heavy. It's right in between. Let's go on and try and pick this up here. Let me get my kickstand out here. And what we're gonna do is lift this bad boy up here. Oh, mama. Okay, our kickstand's still down? I hope so. There we go. So, again, I'm huffing, I'm puffing. It is still heavy. Catch me right there. But it's not unmanageable heavy. That's what I want to really put out there, right? Like, I really feel like if you're in a sticky situation, you're gonna be able to get out of it with this motorcycle. Now, going into a few more of the performance or handling or feel of the bike, which also kind of rolls a little bit into the comfort there, there's 2 things I want to touch on. Number one being the stock tires. Those stock tires that come on this motorcycle are an absolute joke. Those should not be on an adventure motorcycle at all. I don't know what Triumph was thinking. Maybe they got a good deal on them or something, but they are ridiculous. I'm running a Battle Axe ATX41s or whatever. These tires are phenomenal. The life on the rear is just very short. You're talking 3,000, maybe if you're lucky, 6,000 miles. We'll cover these in another video. I covered them on dual sports before, but talking them on a bigger, heavier bike, the lifespan's even less. We'll cover that in another video, so make sure to subscribe, hit the bell, because that will be coming later on. But the stock tires are ridiculous. I mean, they are primarily road. They're great on a road, but again, you're buying the Rally version or the Rally Pro to go off-road. If you're riding road, just get the GT. One thing you've probably read about with this triple here is feeling the vibration when you get up to higher speeds. Now, And that's kind of, I've been trying to find that myself. I'm like, well, everyone's talking about this vibration on it. It's no different than any other motorcycle in my opinion. Honestly, it feels exactly to the T like the Africa Twin. If you've ever ridden the Africa Twin, that is exactly what this feels like. It's not excessive vibration. It's not lower vibration than anything else. It feels exactly like the Africa Twin. Now, as far as feet vibration, I keep the rubbers off mine because I, again, turn down those random roads going off-road, and I just don't like the slickness of the rubber. But the vibration is nothing that really, I don't even think deserves a topic to say, oh, hey, this is more than something else. Now, one other thing as far as comfort and performance, and again, I guess the way the bike is running that you do know in the comfort department, is the heat. And that's coming out from right here. And I've seen some other videos of people talking about it. And I'm like, well, how is that? Because it looks just like the Africa Twin and some of these other bikes. What's going on here? But the heat coming out from this, when you're sitting on this bike with your legs right here, you do feel it. Now, if you're on interstate, you're going 70 miles an hour, give or take, whatever, 75, you don't feel it because you're going so fast, it's just blowing right off. But if you're around town, you start chugging, and if you're wearing just regular pants and not riding pants, yeah, you feel it. It's not burning you. It's not unbearable, but it's noticeable. It is. And where that is coming from is these fans on the radiator right there are going straight back. Again, I keep referring back to the Africa Twin, but they're kicking out this way on the Africa Twin. So again, it's blowing that air out from you. Triumph here is blowing it straight back, and it's coming through these little ducts right here, but there's also a gap right behind it. It's like it's not completely closed off, blowing that air away from you. What they needed to do is take the radiators and kick them out a little bit more, which would take that heat and blow it out more this way, and then close off that gap right there. Is that a deal breaker? Is it that horrible? No, it's not. But again, it is something you do notice. And it kind of makes you think, like, with how well refined and put together this bike is, it's like, how did they miss something that simple? Also, talking about something that simple, as you see, I have some mods on here. I got the Givi racks, I got the Heed skid plate, and then the Heed crash bars. The crash bars and skid plate that come on the Rally Pro here are almost laughable, just like the tires. They're not as bad as the tires. The tires are an incredible joke, you know? But the skid plate on this that comes on this bike is like a pebble blocker. Like, you don't want to go off-road with that little thing. It barely blocks anything. It's a joke. The crash bars that come on it, they're solid, but they're just a lower engine guards. You have nothing up here guarding your body, you know? Now, you can buy the top ones separately, but again, it's kind of, some people are saying that they don't include this bolt right up here where they attach there, so it's just going down there, and they flex a lot. So that's why I went with the Heed ones. They did fix that, but I don't know if those are the ones in rotation right now, so I didn't want to take the chance, oh, I can get the old ones or the new ones. Hence the reason I went with the Heed, and I've always used Heed. I mean, they're solid, they're one piece, they don't break the bank, they're just a solid bar. So again, the stock ones are great. Why don't, on this Rally Pro premium high-priced motorcycle, why don't they include the top ones? That should be a differentiating factor from the regular Rally to the Pro. I really think so. You're talking 300 bucks, and it would be something that would, I think, really separate the two right there. I think they should include the upper crash bars on the Rally Pro. It's a shame that they don't. Now, going more in line with riding it here, again, swinging a leg over it and turning it on, you still got to deal with that dang screen fired up. I had it with the Africa Twin, had it with the KTM. Like, these companies need us an option to be able to disable that intro screen and just make it stop so you can get right to business, you know what I mean? Because it's like, all right, hold on, let me get to it, you know. And there's more to that, which I'm going to talk about here once we get into the controls and the screen. But I want to cover a few more things. Number one being the shifter, this quick shifter down here that comes on the Rally Pro. I don't believe it comes on a basic Rally. And as I stated before, a quick shifter is a must for me. It's like cruise control. I will not buy a bike without cruise control, and I will not buy a bike without a quick shifter anymore. And the quick shifter on this, especially when you got 5,000 RPMs and you pop it up in there, it is perfect. It's smooth, but you still feel it. You hear it. It is fantastic. It is really, really nice. Now, that also goes into play with just the clutch. When you're just doing regular shifting, it's so natural. It's so pure, right along with the throttle response and the control right here. I keep mine in off-road mode usually. Unless I'm on the street, I keep it in street mode. But really, no matter which mode, the only mode I really haven't used is sport mode. Again, I'm not a sporty rider. But the throttle response, the clutch control, Everything's pure and natural and balanced. It's not excessive. You don't feel like you're getting ripped off. You don't feel like you wish you had a little bit more. It's right there at that perfect point, and it feels absolutely amazing. Talking about amazing, the sound of this bike is awesome. Let me go on and fire it up right here. By the way, you got to hold in the clutch to fire it up here, even if the kick stands up, even if you're in neutral. So fire it up right there. This is the first time I fired it up this morning, so we are cold here. Let it run a little bit, and then we'll go ahead and give it some gas. The combination of the engine just like sounding like a race car, and then the rumble of the stock exhaust is a beautiful combination. It is so awesome if you're riding around the roads, or if you're off-road just gassing over obstacles and stuff. It is phenomenal, and you want to listen to it. Now I want to go ahead and talk about the electronics and the controls. And starting with the controls over here, everything feels well put together, very premium and in place. It's very nice. As you see over here, starting on our handlebar, you got your heated grips. Really nice. I love how it's bam right there, and then you have 3 different settings right up there. Some people say they don't get hot enough. Again, I live in a hot climate, and they're perfect for me. I don't need my heated grips to start burning, you know what I mean? The highest setting is a perfect setting. I usually keep mine on a lower setting, but again, keep in mind, I live in a hotter climate. Now coming down here, you have your horn, and then your joystick, which you can navigate through the menu and such. You got your turn signals, you got your ride mode button, your cruise control, and I want you to keep an eye on these. So I'm gonna mention these here in a second when I bring you into the screen. And then back here, you have your heated seat, and then your fog light button, and then your high beam, which you can also flash back there. Come over to the other side, you got your home button, which will bring you into the home screen there. You got your kill switch, your power, and then your hazards. All right, so now let me bring you in closer and show you the screen here. And I'm gonna be navigating through the controls we just talked about. So first off, I'm gonna hit that M button that was on our left switch right there, and it's gonna cycle through ride modes up top. You see road, sport, off-road, off-road pro, which off-road pro disables traction control, ABS. Off-road, you still get your off-road ABS and such. You got rider, which is your custom mode, rain, and then of course road and sport. Now the stinker about this, as I'm hitting this button over here, or again you can control it from the joystick, is I can't adjust that on the fly. So when I'm riding, I can't just go, like if I'm on the road, especially which was up in Tennessee, right? I'm going through twisties, I'm in road mode, then I wanna, bam, I wanna come over here to my rider mode, which I keep ABS on and traction control off. I can't automatically switch that on the fly whenever I'm riding. You have to stop, unless I'm missing something, which I haven't found yet, which is a big stinker, and that is such a downfall on this bike. So that was using, again, the M button on our left switch. The other thing is the cruise control. Once I set it down to set, it comes up here, and you can plus and minus it as you're riding, as you saw on the button. But one thing that I haven't figured out, and I don't think you can, is once it's set, it's kind of set. Now, of course, you can twist your throttle up or hit the brake and it disables it, but it's still right there. So if you hit the button, you're gonna go into it. I wish you can completely turn it off, which I haven't found a way holding any buttons down or anything. Is once I'm set, my cruise control is gonna show my set setting right there, and it's always gonna be up there. Again, I wish it was either on or off. So it's kind of like on midpoint and then off, if you're catching my drift. And that's just something that kind of messes with my head a little bit. But other than that, other than controls on the left-hand side, when we go into the home button, you see you got a lot of options here. Ride mode, bike setup, trip setup. Now, when we come up to ride modes here and you click on them, again, this is rider where you can customize it. You got those options there, and I'm controlling this all by the little thumbstick, the little joystick over there. Again, you got off-road, sport, road, rain. You got your traction control settings right here, right down there. And off-road is pretty darn good off-road. I honestly like it. Off is a little bit of a handful on this big bike. I do prefer off-road right there. Now coming down, you can reset it. And then coming down to these other ones, say for example, if you're looking at road, it just pretty much shows you what it's in. You got road, you got your map, which is a road, right? So you got all of those basic settings. Let me show you off-road pro here. ABS, you have off. You got your map, off-road, traction control is going to be off. And you can, again, tweak these as you like per each mode. But again, I say leave them like that because it's really nice to have each one. Your rider's really going to be able to get your preferred setting out there. Then you got bike setup, all your basic stuff, your indicators, which you got your auto turn off indicators. Auto basic is pretty nice. It's not excessive, like it doesn't turn off too quick like the Africa Twin did. It's really nice right there. Auto Advanced I haven't even used yet. Let's go and click on that. So indicators, I haven't messed with it. Auto Basic is so good I just left it right there. Now you got your trip setup again, basic mileage and such. You know what? This might show me how much no, I'll have to go in a different one. This is actual setup. Display setup here. Color, brightness, and you can do all this in a quick menu, which I'm going to show you here in a second. But you can come down here and actually click on what you see when you go into the menu. Fuel status, your TPMS, your tire pressure sensor, which I absolutely love right there. And then your colors, which a lot of the stuff can be adjusted in a quick menu, which is what I do. I don't really come into here too much. Gear shift indicator, disabled. I really don't use mine much. I'll put it in default and start using it and see what it's like. Language, units, clock, and date. So now let me go on and show you the quick menu that I've been talking about. And I want you to focus up here. As you see right now, it's showing music, and I got my track select, player, pause, and right down here is showing our ride mode, our gas gauge, temperature, our gear shift indicator, and then temperature over here, and then your speedometer. So let me go on and show you. As I cycle up with that joystick, you can see the different options I have here. Again, color, which is going to change this stuff. So if I put it to yellow, you can see the gas gauge and the temperature change to yellow. You got green, you got white. The white kind of looks the best, but it blends in too much. I prefer the blue, kind of separates it a little bit right there and gives it a really cool contrast. Coming up here, you have auto, low, and then high. So if I put it in high, which is how it's going to be when you're riding in the daytime, it comes to white, but then you can't adjust the colors. It goes automatically to this setting. So when you go to auto, I'm in shade right now. So this is what it will be like at nighttime, which the auto is really nice. Again, going back to the Africa Twin, it used to switch excessively. This one is very natural. Like when it's dark, it goes to this. When it's light, it goes to the other one. Really, really nice. Coming up, we have our tire pressure, and the tire pressure doesn't register until you start going, I believe it's 20 or 30 miles per hour. I believe 20 something miles per hour, and then the tire pressure sensor will go on right there. I forget the intervals, but again, it's something I really like having, especially when you're off-road. Coming up here, you have your fuel, your range, and then your average. As you see, I'm only averaging 39.2, so fuel economy, not the best right here. It's nothing amazing. It's not bad, but not the best. Trip, this must have been my most recent trip, 1,600 miles. Coming up, text message, phone calls, your trip, your GoPro, which I haven't synced up the GoPro yet. Let me talk about this phone call thing real quick. It's real weird. I've used the iPhone 14 Pro, and when I get a call through it, it just beeps and then hangs up. Now I'm going from this to my Cardo, so I don't know if I got an issue right there. I can call out of this perfectly fine, but again, it's kind of weird receiving the calls. And that also goes up when we come up to here to the music, where you can adjust the volume. With my iPhone 14 Pro Max, I can't adjust the volume. I can mute it, but I can't adjust the volume. Really, really strange. But what else I want to show you is going in here to styles. So we go into style 2. As you see, it brought everything down, and it just kind of makes everything else bigger. The volume, your track select. I want to show you this down here. So you got your trip, your calls, messages. This is really cool. So again, you got your trip up here. Come down here to your miles per gallon, your gas, your range. It just makes everything bigger. You got your current, your average. So you get a few more options. Your TPS, now you see you get the bike in the middle. You can cycle over to your service whenever you get it. So again, you get a few more options and everything's a little bit more legible. The one thing I don't like is you see this right here, your speedometer, it kind of cuts into the cruise control, which that's a minor gripe, but it just looks chintzy. It's like, yeah, why couldn't you put this over here or something? Because like this will start cutting into that, and it gets even worse. Let me go to the other setting. There's all the colors. So now you see it shows you the colors. Let me go over here to like setting 3. It just, again, it makes everything smaller and then everything else bigger. And it starts getting like setting 3 is almost like why? Like I don't really need it that big, you know? So I prefer setting 2 or 1. You know, they're both pretty good. Setting 2 is nice because you get the most options, but setting 1 is, again, the most vibrant. Setting 4 is the most odd, I think, because again, it just shoves everything to this side. And then you get all your settings on the left side right there. So your tax down on the bottom, this is up here. If you're using navigation, the Triumph navigation, this is nice because you get the big arrow over there and everything. I wish it gave a map. If it gave a map, I'd probably use this setting the most, but you don't get a map, you just get those arrow points. The one thing I do wish is, as you see, you got these lights on the side, your check engine, your oil, your ABS and stuff like that. Even though it looks like a massive screen, like let me go on and turn it off right here. And you'll see, so when most people look at it, they're gonna be like, oh wow, you got a massive screen right here. Well, no, your screen's really right there. You got an inch on this side, inch on that side, a few millimeters on each other side right there. I wish it did utilize a little bit more of the screen, and maybe those indicators were as far as the digital screen. But that plays into play of like, okay, well, you want your, warnings not in the digital, because what if something's wrong with the digital, then you're not gonna get those. So I get it, but I wish the screen took up more real estate here. All right, so I apologize for getting long-winded on the controls and the electronics right there, but I think a lot of us enjoy that stuff. And you're buying a premium bike, you want that stuff to work right. You really want to know what you're getting out of it, And those two complaints of mine right there, number one being the ride mode, not being able to adjust it on the fly. Again, it's not a deal breaker. You're gonna catch me get passionate right here. It's not a deal breaker, but it severely sucks. I really wish you can change your ride mode on the fly. If I'm missing something and you ride this bike and there's some way to do it, please, I'm begging you, let me know down in the comments how to do that. I've checked the manual, I've tried all sorts of button options, and I can't get it to adjust like that. I have to come to a dead stop and then adjust it. And that really stinks. I stated this in my first impressions. It's kind of strange because the Triumph Tiger 900 GT Pro, I believe, comes with electronic suspension. Is it just rear? I'm not sure if it's just rear or the front, but anyways, it's got electronic. This one doesn't. Rear would be all I would really want, because again, when I load up my bags and stuff, being able to firm it up back there would be really nice, rather than going down here and then again, cranking it with your hand. One thing, side note, that is really nice is it comes with the center stand here. So whenever you're adjusting your suspension, put it on that center stand, get that weight off and then adjust it. It's gonna be a lot easier, especially if you're loaded down, because you're not gonna be able to adjust it loaded down. But again, coming with that side stand, being able to adjust it, it's not hard, right? You're not adjusting your suspension constantly, but at this premium price, and why the other one has it, it's almost like, well, why not include it? You know what I mean? Now one thing I want to chime in about here, which is kind of funny, talking about the center stand. This center stand is so annoying because this is all you hear throughout the entire thing. The spring is very loose, and you hear that through half your ride. Next time I go on a long extended ride that's going to include off-road, I am taking that dang thing off. Now, I'm usually not a stickler for brakes on motorcycles, right? I've ridden bikes with bad brakes, being in the Royal Enfield Himalayan, or I felt like the Africa Twin had pretty darn good brakes, you know what I mean? So again, it's never been anything that's really messed with me. I'm not an aggressive rider, so it's not like, hey, I need these brakes to really, hit right here, But coming over to these Brembos that are on this bike, you notice how good they are. Again, it goes in line with everything else on the bike. It's just perfect, it's natural. These Brembo brakes, they stop where you want to stop and how you want to stop. It's not like, oh, let me just touch them lightly because they're too aggressive, or let me grip them harder because they're not firm enough. It's just, again, it's part of you. It flows with you as you ride, and these Brembo brakes are absolutely phenomenal. Hands down, the best I have ever used. They're just, again, they feel natural. Now, one other thing that's a little bit weird here on this bike is the headlight. I like the style of it. I love the fog lights that come on it here, and then the headlight. But it's weird that when you're in regular mode, it's only one headlight lights up, and it's just, I don't know. I think that's kind of goofy. It gives it kind of like, well, maybe this dude just got an out bulb on his motorcycle. You got this high-end motorcycle and my bulb's out. That's the vibe I get, right? Oh, he's got an out headlight, you know what I mean? So when you go into high beam, it keeps it on. Now, when you use your fog lights, you can't be in the high beams. You got to be in your regular mode right there. And those fog lights are absolutely amazing. They got like this little beam in there or whatever, or how they're pinched, and they crisscross each other. So it covers all that ground in front of you and goes to the side. And it just makes you look like a car, and you cover all that ground. It's absolutely amazing. These are some of the best fog lights I've ever used. They are phenomenal. I'm not sure if I'm missing anything. I know I've been sitting here just kind of chatting it over, which is how I like going about my videos. I don't script them or anything. I want to talk, again, biker to biker, consumer to consumer here, just a real review. I don't like flooding with specs. You can go to the website and read that stuff, right? I just want to talk, and that's what I've been doing here. And I believe I covered everything about this bike, I really do. And as you're catching through me just talking about the bike, there's a lot of ifs. It's kind of like, man, this is great, but why this? Man, I love this, but why that? Why didn't you do this? Why did you do that? Those whys are honestly mild. They're whys still, and paying this price, $17,000 plus, you're talking before tax, you know, dealer fees and such like that, it's an expensive motorcycle. There's no denying it. It's an expensive motorcycle. But even with those whys, I feel like I got every dollar's worth out of this motorcycle. In talking about getting my dollar's worth out of this motorcycle, I love it. I feel like it's that middle ground that I've been looking for. Again, you all know my Africa Twin was too big and heavy. The KTM was too aggressive. I felt like I was on top. It felt like a big dual sport. This is that in-between ground, and I absolutely love this motorcycle.